Well, welcome everyone to Sunday Dharma, and a big thank you to our technology devas for getting us up and rolling. You guys are angels. We'll start with a chant to invite the holy beings to come and join us for Dharma this morning. May they guide my speech, and may they guide all of your thoughts and experience. Incense burning, all space is filled with the fragrance. All Buddhas smell it from afar. Auspicious clouds gather everywhere. With utmost sincerity, all Buddhas appear. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. Pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. And may these clouds of incense that we are offering to the holy beings, may those be our good deeds, our kindness, our compassion, and our practice. Those are the only gifts that we can offer them. So today, how's our sound, guys? We got sound today? Yay! Excellent, excellent, excellent. Today we're going to talk about the second in the Noble Eightfold Path. The Buddha said he came only to teach two things: the truth of suffering and the cessation of suffering. And he said the way to do that is to look at the Four Noble Truths. One is suffering is a reality. There's an inherent dissatisfaction. Dukkha is what he called it. In Pali, it's called dukkha. And dukkha, actually, when I think of the word suffering, I think of like Jesus nailed to the cross. But that's not what the Buddha was referring to, although it might include that. But it also comes right down to the actual translation of the word dukkha is it doesn't translate easily, but it means the unlevel part of the wheel when the ox is pulling the cart. And we've all had it, we've experienced in our tires, it throws one of those little lead things that balances the tire, and you'll get this little poof, 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 and as you speed up, it goes poof, 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 poof. It's that clunk that life offers us. And it can be as subtle as just a mild irritation, or it can be as deep as the loss of a loved one and that kind of grief. It can be the entire spectrum. And so the truth of suffering, boy, watch my old mind do a blank here. What's number two, Joe?
The cause of suffering.
The cause of suffering is clinging. Yes, thank you, Dina. The causes of suffering is wanting it other than it is in this moment. That's what causes our suffering. It doesn't matter what's going down in this moment. What matters is how are we receiving it? And if we're receiving that with a, well, that's the way it is, by golly, there's no suffering in that. There's like an acceptance of how it is in this moment. Now, that does not mean that we're condoning it. If we're looking at someone who's abusing a child, and the immediate thing is to get an emotional reaction to that. But if we don't go there, if we just receive life at the speed of life, just receive it as it is, then we can discern rather than judge that, oh, this child is being abused. It also comes to mind that dependent origination thing, that the abuser was also abused more than likely. That does not mean that we're condoning it. We may, in the next moment, call family services and describe the situation and where it's going on. So we may have to act in a tough love manner. But in this moment, we're not judging. We're not emotionally reacting. We're only in a place of acceptance of what is, and then a skillful response to what's going on. So that's the second one. The third noble truth is it doesn't have to be this way. Yes, this is the world of samsara. This is a world of duality, and it will never be perfect, but we can certainly strive to make it better. How can we do that? That's the fourth noble truth. And that is the Eightfold Path. I love the Buddha gave us list upon list. I mean, there's just, if you can't get there from this angle, go to another angle, because he's got so many doors to get to enlightenment. You're going to find the door that fits you right now, right here, where you are on the path. And the Noble Eightfold Path is, number one, right intention, right view. That also translates as right understanding. So we're not all caught up in our opinions and beliefs, but rather we're in a place of clear discernment and truly understanding. The second noble truth, which is what we're going to work with today, is right intention or right thought. We'll talk a lot more about that. The third one is right speech. Then there's right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Each one of these can be a Dharma talk on its own. There's so much to be shared around those. But we're going to go directly to number 2, right thought. And of course, y'all know me. I can't do a Dharma talk without giving you a song or two. So we will start with a song. I would like you to receive this song not as a form of entertainment, but rather as a meditation, as a contemplation. So I invite you to just drop in to your quiet mind and hear the lyrics to this song and allow the music to bring those words directly to your heart. I need fingerpicks for the song. Sorry, guys. It's usually the cable that I forget to put in the right place, but we'll do it. All right. So once again, inviting you to drop into your heart, allowing your clear hearing to bring these words directly to your heart. We tend to believe in all that we think, imagining patterns in all that we see. We try to find meaning in everything, but what do we really know? Just look a little deeper, question your thoughts. You know that there's thinking in all that we've got. There's a truer awareness when the thinking subsides, letting go of ourselves, going inside. It's in stillness the truth abides. It's in stillness the truth abides. There's really no me, and there's really no you. These bodies are made up of bones and sinew. But open it up, and you won't find you. So what do we really know? Just look a little deeper, question your thoughts. You know that this thinking ain't all that we've got. There's a truer awareness when the thinking subsides, letting go of ourselves, going inside. It's in stillness the truth abides. It's in stillness the truth abides. We're just specks of stardust, all coated with life. Our wisdom's been sleeping, that's why it's the fight. Wake up to our craziness, telling us lies about what we really know. Just look a little deeper, question your thoughts. You know that this thinking ain't all that we've got. There's a truer awareness when the thinking subsides, letting go of ourselves, closing our eyes, going inside. It's in stillness the truth abides. It's in stillness the truth abides. It's in stillness the truth abides. There's a truer awareness when thinking subsides. Think about how much your mind is telling you a story. Can we be still for even 3 minutes without a thought coming up? Did you get it? There was a thought, right? Who here did not have a thought in that moment? It wasn't a full three minutes. Okay, so we all have thought. And that's the training we need to work on with the mind. So the Buddha tells us that our thoughts are very powerful. They determine our mental states, such as happiness or sadness, and all of the other emotions. They not only determine our mental states, they actually carve out who we are in this world. They are the ones who determine. Are we one who sees beauty? Are we one who sees what's wrong? What's the problem? And then our thinking mind comes right through the back door and says, well, you got to be prepared, you know? And it's like, no, you don't. You do not have to be prepared by thinking all the negative stuff, because it carves out, it makes us that. And what we are, we draw more of to ourselves. We are like magnets. What we train ourselves to be and to manifest in the world is what we draw in magnetically. There's a pull. If we see the beauty in the world, if we see the beauty in each other, we draw that out. When that person comes to us, they're more likely to be in a beautiful state when they're in our presence. They're more easily able to drop their problem seeking, complaining mind because they're in the presence of kindness and beauty. And so it affects our thoughts. They start up here. And the next thing you know, if you're not really on guard, the mouth opens and words come out. And if that was not a skillful thought, those words, I guarantee you, will not be skillful words. And then we talk ourselves into acting on them too. And so thought is the beginning of speech and action. If we want to do the skillful speech and the skillful action, we've got to get the skillful thinking piece down, or what's coming out of us. It's going to be exactly what's up here. So I'd like to read you a little bit from the Majjhima Nikaya 19. And it says, the Buddha is speaking with his bhikkhus. Bhikkhus, whatever a bhikkhu frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of his mind. If he frequently thinks and ponders upon thoughts of sensual desire, he has abandoned the thought of renunciation to cultivate the thought of sensual desire. And then his mind inclines to thoughts of sensual desire. If he frequently thinks and ponders upon thoughts of ill will, upon thoughts of cruelty, he has abandoned the thought of non-cruelty and cultivates the thought of cruelty. And then his mind inclines to thoughts of cruelty. Just as in the last month of the rainy seasons in the autumn, when the crops thicken, a cow herder would guard his cows by constantly tapping and poking them on the side and with a stick to check and curb them. Why is that? Because he sees that he could be flogged, imprisoned, fined, or blamed if he let them stray into the crops. So too, I saw in unwholesome states danger, degradation, and defilement. And in wholesome states, the blessing of renunciation, the aspect of cleansing, of purification. And so we say that we want to be purified of these things. But that's not something that you can just pray for and the holy beings will just bestow it on you. You gotta earn it. And we came here for that very reason. We all knew before we came what we were going to be working on. We chose what situation we were going to come into because it would test us to the very best. It would give us that Dharma on the hoof, walking it out in the world, opportunities to transform so that we could become purified. Purified of greed, hatred, and delusion, the three weaknesses. So the more we think a particular type of thought, the more they will occur. The more I practice these chords on the guitar, the more I'm able to play them. And 2 weeks ago, when I gave the Dharma talk, it was a blessing that our technology angels forgot us that day because I hadn't had the opportunity. I was just coming down with COVID. It was not a good situation. And my mind could not. And when I tried to play the songs, my hands were hitting chords but I did not take the moment before I came in to run through the song and just practice it. That's what it is. It's practicing our skillful thinking, our right thoughts, practicing them. And so the Buddha tells us that the characteristics of he calls them run-of-the-mill, untaught mind. And here are some of the characteristics of a run-of-the-mill, untaught mind. Irritation. Has anybody felt any irritation this week? Perhaps when a radiator blows up in your face, or when it's your radiator that's blown up in somebody else's face. What else? Anybody had any irritation? Yeah. Okay. That's that untrained puppy mind. Impatience. Anybody found themselves a little impatient? Yeah. That's the untrained puppy mind. Annoyance. Okay, I'll complain. Yeah. Judgment. Oh my God. This is one of the hardest ones. Because we see, watch the news. Or watch your friends, watch the people you love, and go to a family reunion. You're going to see that judging mind come up. This is part of being in the human condition. When the thought arrives, there's not a karma that connects to that thought until we feed it. Until we think, okay, let's say I'm at a family reunion, and now I'm with Aunt Scylla. And Aunt Scylla talks a blue streak. And I go to the room and everybody's sitting around and Scylla has the floor. And immediately I want to, oh God, no, not Scylla, the talk machine. That thought crosses my mind because of past experience. Of course, it's natural that it will cross my mind. In that moment, I have a choice. Here's where the karma comes in, friends. In that moment, when I feel like making a beeline for the kitchen and go and help Mama with the food, instead, I choose to put a blessing on Scylla and even maybe a little chuckle. Well, this is how Scylla is. Are you surprised? There's no surprise here. Bless you, Scylla. May I sit next to you and listen with eye contact and a nod of the head from time to time. Just kindness, no judgment. What happened there was I clearly discerned what was coming up, which was judgment. And I caught it before there was any karmic debt. I caught it. What did I catch it with? Discernment. How did I subdue it? Blessing. And then an act of kindness towards itself. Okay. Frustration. Anybody been frustrated this week? I don't even need to see. I know, friends. I know I feel us. And we've all been there. Disappointment. Dissatisfaction, aggravation, tension, stress, anxiety, sadness, grief. As I call these out, I know we can each touch into, oh yeah. And maybe we didn't have all of them. The list goes on. We can go on a long time on that list. I don't prefer to focus our energy on the negative so much. Let's move ahead and say, so there's virtually no end to this list of things that cause us suffering. And that's precisely the Buddha's point. It flows through life like water. And so that's why it's so important every opportunity when one of these afflictive emotions arises, if we can say, thank you for this strangely wrapped gift, because it's our opportunity to shift. And at a certain point, we've all seen people who've been on the path longer than we have and are further down that road, and they don't get caught in these things as much. And some people don't ever seem to get caught at all. Venerable Panadipa, what a gift that man was to our community, and still remains to be if we want to remain open to his influence from the other side of the veil. Because that holy being went directly to the Pure Lands, but then I personally, and I've talked with a lot of friends who have also felt his presence. And let me just tell you this. If you never met Venerable Panadipa in this life, no worries, because you can still call on Venerable Panadipa. He's always been there for us, and he will never leave us as long as we need his help. But that man modeled how to walk through the world, feeling all those human things arise, but they no longer arose for him, great big gnarly monsters. I love Ram Dass. Ram Dass is such an amazing, wonderful teacher. And he was talking with his students one day, and he said, the difference after all these years of practice for me is that my neuroses used to be these trolls, these giant demon-like trolls, and they would get a hold of me. And he says, it's not that they've gone anywhere. He says, now they're just these little gnomes, and I have tea with them. And so we don't escape the human condition. What we do is we learn how to work skillfully with the human condition. And boy, one of the best places to start is with skillful thought. So here's a list of tips for dealing with these afflictive thoughts as they come into our minds. Number one, slow down. Slow down, move too fast. Yeah. You got to make the moment last. Yeah. And so this is important. If we're moving full speed, there's no time for us to wake up in the moment and make the skillful choice. So slow down. Number one, pay attention. When the thought arises, immediately we can make this a reflex, friends. The more we practice it, the more it'll come to us in the moment. And if in the moment anything arises for us, if we can say, is it wholesome or is it unwholesome? Just ask that inner question. Wholesome, unwholesome. If it's wholesome, then we want to go ahead and drink from that font and absorb that beautiful wholesomeness. If it's unwholesome, that's where we got the choice. What can we do? How can we bless it? How can we receive it with kindness and discernment? No judgment. How can we do that? That's where the choice is. When the unwholesome comes up, the wholesome is a beautiful gift. And we get to soak in the beauty of the wholesome. The unwholesome, although appearing ugly, it is also a beautiful gift because it's that opportunity to practice. Here's where the rubber hits the road. Here's where we made one more step towards something good transforming right here, right now. Pay attention. The next one, watch your own personal patterns. We can listen to wonderful Dharma talks, and certain things will stand out for us, and those will be very useful. But they are nowhere near as useful to you as watching your patterns of thought. Here's a recommendation, or a mission, should you choose to accept it. Try keeping a journal of your thoughts for just 1 week. 1 week. And notice you don't have to write down what the thought was. Just in the journal, you have 2 columns. You have wholesome and you have unwholesome. And just each time a thought appears to you, put a tick in one of the columns. It's even carrying a journal is hard and cumbersome, but having one little piece of Post-it per day, that can work. You've got a life to live. We're lay people, we're householders. So the monastics could actually make that happen all day if they chose. We can't make that happen all day, but could we choose 1 hour and set our timer? When the timer goes off, we put down the Post-it. But until then, we carry a pencil or a pen and a piece of paper or the Post-it, because you can stick that into your clothes even, and just do it for 1 hour. you'll notice what your patterns are, whether they're wholesome or unwholesome. Another thing, if you want to go a little deeper with this practice, is what is it? That's where naming it could be very helpful, because then you see where your real challenge is. My challenge, let's say I'm like Scylla, and my challenge is just talking more than words that need to be said. Those of you who knew Panadipa knew you could sit in Panadipa's presence. He could have dinner with a whole group of people and say 3 words or less. Fewness of words and abundance of deeds. This is how we purify ourselves. And so let's say that's our challenge. I talk more than I need to. Okay, then each time I find myself doing it, I will have already gone into the talking thing, because that's my challenge, right? And then at the end of it, I wake up to it. Oh, you just said more words than were necessary. There goes a tick. Now, in this day and age, back in the Buddha's day, that would be good enough. But there's many ways that we say words these days. Texting. Was that a necessary text? Okay. So watch that. So watch for your patterns. Notice that this one was unskillful or unwholesome, and it was judgment. Okay, then there's a judgment, and then you've already got a column for judgment. This might take a bigger piece of paper if you're anything like me. Irritation. Okay, I need a column for irritation because I got one of those. Okay. Just go through them as they come up. Anger. Just listen to the news and whoa, there comes some anger. Frustration. Helplessness, that horrible feeling of the world is not right and I should make it different. It's not always mine to do. It's not always mine to do. Sometimes all that's mine to do is to bless it and pray for this one's upliftment. That the demon of ego can subside in this one in this moment. So we can, so we've got all these columns, all these different emotions. You want to go even deeper on the practice, then you put a tick on it, and then you undo it. You bless it, and you send another thought to replace the judgment, the irritation, the annoyance, the anger, the frustration. Put in a thought that negates that lifts your energy up. That is like a darkness. That's like a shadow. When those things come over us, they're like a shadow. But if we can turn it around, lift it up with some light, some love, some kindness, some compassion, you can actually feel the light. You can feel the shadow move out of the way. You can feel your heart expand a little bit. And when the negativity comes, if you're paying attention to the body, you can feel a contraction. Your muscles even will tighten up. But you can feel that release when you bless that situation with whatever you're going to use. So watching your patterns. And this will lead you to the next step, which is to know where you are. Once you've kept that list and you see your patterns, hang on to it. It's a reminder. If you do the same exercise and you've really been working on it, you do the same exercise 2 months later, it's going to be a very different list. Fewer columns. And that is so reassuring. It builds our confidence in ourselves and our ability to work our practice. It really builds our confidence. And then we are going, when we're doing that goal, when I come into your presence, I mean, you're a beautiful example for me, Arignani, this morning. When I came into your presence in the kitchen, and you were working away in there, and I asked you if you wanted me to flip on the light. And you said, no, she's working in what looked to me like a dark room. My old eyes couldn't have seen in there. And yet this beautiful being was in such joy, in selfless service to our community, that she was radiating her own light in the room. And this is what happens when we come into the presence of one who's working their practice. They radiate that light. You were all touched by it, down to our DNA. Our little DNAs, my little DNAs, when I walked out of the room, went, woohoo, because I had just been washed in the light of love and selfless service. So know where you are. Do the practice 2 months later, and it'll show you, it'll give you the confidence. And there are many other ways, which I won't take a lot of time on each of them, but I want to offer them to you in case something stands out to you. Take 3 conscious breaths. You're just changing your mind. Deepa used to say, if your mind is thinking something unwholesome, you got a choice. Turn it around, choose something. And I love it. This tall, very strong black man says, think about puppies. Think about butterflies. It's like, how sweet is that? It brings it right down to something very childlike, very pure. So take 3 conscious breaths and change your body. Keep awareness inside your body. Consciously feel the sensations when you're doing an activity, cutting up the vegetables, washing the dishes, being aware of walking, being aware when we're eating. That's the slow it down piece. Just mindful awareness in life more of the time. The more we can slow down and be mindful in the moment, the more progress we're making on the path. Notice and acknowledge mind states when they arise. Happy, angry, restless, lost in thought, whatever it is, just notice them and name them. Notice what distractions take you away from the present moment. A lot of times it's relationships that will take us away because we get caught up in something that's being said or discussed. There again, we're caught in thought. We're not in the present moment. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, oh my God, the social medias. Talk about great things that can draw you away from the present moment and get you sucked into something that's clearly not wholesome. Not that it's all bad. There's some beautiful things on Facebook too. So, but noticing, is this one wholesome? Is this unwholesome? If this is unwholesome, drop it. Go to that one where the funniest animal events. Do something like that. If you're going to be on Facebook, make it productive. The news. I don't watch or listen to the news anymore because it triggers those afflictive emotions in me so badly that I don't feel that I need to be informed about the horrors of our world unless there is something I can actively do. If it doesn't come with an action item, it has no place coming through my mind. And so, but my husband does not feel the same way. And he's an NPR, not addict exactly, but addict. He doesn't miss NPR. And so I will just ask him after coffee in the morning, is there anything going on in the world I really should know about? And often he'll start telling me about Trump. Well, there's a lot about Trump apparently in the news these days, although I don't know for a fact, I hear that there is. And that's all I really need to know, is that is a being who is clearly suffering in this moment. That's good for me to know that that's happening to him. That's a useful thought for me to allow to enter my mind because I can receive it with blessings. If you look at the man's face, the pictures that they show us on the news, our mouth is open, there's a wrinkled brow, there's it's a demon-like that's happening to that poor being. Do you think that man is happy? No way. Mar-a-Lago cannot be happy. It's beautiful. I saw a picture of it. It's a beautiful place with one of the most unhappy beings on our planet. How sad is that? So I can look at that face that's in such anguish, and I can ask the holy beings, please shed your light on this one. Bring love to this one. Bring awakening to this one. So news, yes and no. Notice the stillness and the beauty of nature. That will ground you in a way that really is purifying. I had the opportunity to take Buddha Dog out walking at Holmes Forest. And I'll tell you guys a secret. Don't anybody tell anybody, because it's the best kept secret in the world. And this is going out on the internet, so all you guys don't tell anybody either. But before you get, when you come down Canuga Road and you see the Holmes Forest 1 mile, the next road off to the left is old CCC highway. And 2 miles down that is a back entrance into Holmes Forest. And it actually is the back road that goes up to the Ute. And it's always locked this time of year, but you can park down there and you can walk up in. And right now, with all the coolness and the rains, the mushrooms, oh my gosh, the mushrooms. Guys, I took pictures. I got 23 different varieties of mushrooms. Now, I don't know the micro fungi. I don't know these beings very well, but my son is quite knowledgeable with them. And so when I get home, I'm going to sit down and go, what's this one? What's this one? Because my thinking mind wants to put a name on it, right? I know that's probably not the most productive thing to do, but the loving and bonding that would happen with my son on that kind of a thing overrides my mind wanting to name it. That expands my spirit. That expands my heart. And so that will be a worthwhile activity. But for the moment, I didn't know. And you know what, guys? I did not get on Google and try to find out what's the name of this one. What I did was I sat in the presence of this mushroom. One of them was so big, it could, both of my hands could barely hold it. It was like this fan-shaped thing, and kind of an amberish brown color. There were so many. There was a blue-green one that was like this big around. There are just so many different ones. Some with a red cap, some with a bright yellow, some tiny little ones were like fingers, and a bright yellow, the color of your skirt. That bright of a yellow coming up through the soil, it like a little, I don't know, little stone structures or something. I don't know what they were, but they were absolutely gloriously beautiful. And instead of letting my thinking mind go crazy with them, I was able to just be with all of these mushrooms. They're not the actual plant, by the way, or mushrooms aren't plant. They're not the actual fungi. They're just the fruiting body of it. All the little microcelia that go underground and interact with all the trees and the plants. They have symbiotic relationships with the trees and the plants. And some trees cannot live without their fungi. The Colorado blue spruce, we've tried to grow them in our yard in Missouri. They will not grow. They'll live for 2 years and they die because they do not have their fungi companions. Those are the ones who feed them. We have spiritual fungi who feed us. And so that being in nature and just being with it, that is really a beautiful purification practice. And you will come out so expansive. Your energy field will actually expand out from being in the presence of these plants. Okay. And then the last one is radiate loving kindness outwardly towards all beings. One place that I experience that radiating of the loving kindness is when I do the breath work that our dear Adrian guides us in breath work on Zoom, right? We're doing it on Zoom. Okay. And what time did we do that?
9 o'clock in the morning.
9 o'clock weekday mornings? 9 o'clock weekday mornings. And if anyone would like that Zoom link, you can contact Heartwood, contact myself, or and I will get you in touch with Adrian and Ariane, who are the ones who do this. But there's a place in the breath work where Adrian has us visualizing a glowing white light in the root chakra. And we imagine that glowing light grow, and then we imagine it expand into our whole body to where we are just like glowing, and he says like a diamond in the sun. And then at the end of and you do holding breath and breathing in and that kind of thing, and he'll teach you all that. But then at the end of that, when you're breathing out, he has you expand that light out to the world. And then to the universe, as far as you can. He says, reach it as far as you can to where you can touch all beings with that light. This is the kind of thing we're talking about when we say radiate loving kindness outwardly toward all beings, be it the white light in the root chakra, the green light in the heart chakra, the violet flame in the crown chakra, all of these, we do that in our breath work. We radiate that out to all beings. That's a form of loving kindness that can touch and uplift our planet. We're not practicing just for ourselves, friends. We're practicing for all beings. Okay, so the effects of the training of the mind. You want one of those non-run-of-the-mill, untrained minds. You want to get over that one and have a well-trained mind. Here are the characteristics of our awakened presence or our true nature. That other stuff is like sludge that's covering over what I'm going to give you right now. This is the stuff that you're hiding inside, covered over by a facade of all that negative crap. And as we pare it away, little by little, subtle pieces falling away, more light comes through. I want to share with you this one thing. We had in Missouri, we had a lovely festival. It was, I think, for Pride Day. And the local Buddhist community came together and they all dressed in black and they brought their cushions and they each had a frame that had a piece of paper, just thin paper in front of them. But this was a dark black piece of paper. And they each had a pin. And they sat for 4 hours in meditation. And each time, a thought of loving kindness, a thought of compassion, a thought of generosity, any of those beautiful thoughts cross their mind, they would poke a hole in that paper and then they'd sit again. And they'd wait until the next thought arose of its own. They weren't evoking them and choosing to think them. They were just waiting till the thought arose. And when it did, poke another hole. By the end of the 4 hours, many of their papers were in shreds, and one person's had been so shredded that the wind ripped it entirely away. That person was enlightened. But this is what we're doing. Okay, and this is what is hiding. Those negative things are what's hiding these beautiful characteristics of our awake presence, our true Buddha nature. Okay, and so here's what's inside of each and every one of you. Look for it, feed it, bring it out. Thoughts of love and nonviolence extending to all beings. Contentment, acceptance of this present moment. Stillness, moments where there is no inner dialogue. The mind is quiet. Silence, where there's no feeling of a need or a push to talk. Joy, compassion, wisdom, openness, spaciousness, allowing, letting things be as they are in this moment. Flow. Flow, we've heard of as a term in athletics, when a runner just isn't, there's nobody there, but that body is running. And they say they're in the flow, and they move much faster when they're in the flow. Any athlete will tell you when they're in the flow, they're performing their skill much more efficiently. When we're in the flow, things tend to go right more often than not. And when they don't go right, we are more able to find the silver lining. It's not important to dwell. It's very important not to dwell on the unpleasant things of life. It's much more important to see if there's a silver lining to it. What good could come of this? Because all of these negative things are just strangely wrapped gifts. They're tests for us to and beautiful opportunities for us to develop ourselves. Peace. Peace for me is a place of quiet emotions. The deepest peace I personally have ever experienced is when my 7-year-old daughter drowned. And we had no brainwaves and no heartbeat. And in the emergency room, they were able to bring back a heartbeat. And we airshipped her to another hospital where they had an intensive care for pediatrics. And I remember sitting there when the following morning, they said, there's no way we're not going to bring back the brainwaves. So she is not only clinically, but biologically dead. And so that was our time to make the choice to unplug her. Her daddy held her until she flatlined because they had the heart going with the stimulator. And he held her until she flatlined, then he handed her to me and he walked out. And I sat there with 2 of my sisters. And you would think that that would be the most grief-ridden, sorrowful moment in a mother's life, is holding the dead body of her child, right? No, it was not. That was a very wide, spacious, we're bigger than we know, friends. And I could feel the bigness of what I was. And I could feel the bigness of what she was. And it had the deepest peace that I have ever felt. It went clear through to the heart of Mother Earth. It was so still, so quiet, and emotions not present. Can you feel that? Can you feel that? That's the peace we're talking, the peace that goes beyond all understanding. Kindness, appreciation, gratitude. Oh my God, gratitude is your greatest tool, my friends. Gratitude will make us happy. It truly will. They've done research with this. People that kept journals. One group, their control group, just kept a journal of what went on during their day. And the next group, and they took these psychological tests that had relative good validity on how happy people were. And so they took these tests at the beginning, and then they went to 2 months of keeping these journals. And the control group just said, what happened during the day? And this experimental group said, only, what were you grateful for today? And at the end of the study, the group that kept the gratitude journal showed exponential increase on their test of happiness. They were significantly happy just because they focused on what they were grateful for. I'm so grateful to be here with you guys today. And to be in the presence of beings who are working a practice like this. And the last one on this list of our true nature is a completeness, a wholeness, and an expansive sense of being. At a certain point, as we work our practice more and more, right now we kind of can tell when somebody's in, like if somebody walks up behind you and they're within a foot of you or so, you can feel somebody's presence. Now, yes, that might be that you're feeling their body heat, but it also is an energy we each emit in our auric field. And as we continue to work with this practice, as our aura expands more, our ability to feel others, we actually can feel those edges of our aura. Some of us already know what I'm talking about. We've already experienced. But trust me, if you continue with the practice, you will expand and you'll feel the expansiveness of it. It's a useful tool because you can pick up on stuff that you might need to move away. That's very useful. You can also pick up on stuff that they may need you to look over and glance into their eyes and just smile or speak to them. And some of these beautiful young women with their makeup, they've got these great false eyelashes, they've got sparkly makeup on, they've got body art that's tattooed on them. They've worked hard to make their physical body a thing of beauty. And their nails, oh my God, some of these girls' nails. And this is one of the videos. They aren't video. They're making their bodies a thing of art. And to just mention to her, she's my checker. You have just brightened my day, sister. Your makeup is gloriously beautiful. That makes her feel good. That brightens her day. Just little things like that we can do, little random acts of kindness. We don't do it because we're looking for recognition. We don't go home and brag, hey, I said da-da-da to somebody today. It's not that. All that does, if we report on ourselves and our good deeds, we turn that from good hurt into food for the demon realm. They love that ego stuff. We are feeding them if we do that. But, to be able to do, and Venerable Parvati could quote you from the Bible where Jesus talks about doing our good deeds with in a hidden sort of way, with humility, not bragging about what we've done, not reporting it to the world. Because when we do that, we just took a beautiful thing that uplifts all of our beings, and we brought it down and we fed it to the demon. We made them strong by that particular report. So remembering, hold your good deeds close to your heart and send them out like we do in the breath work to all beings. Okay, so we're getting close to the end. I'm going to, and since we're getting closer to the end, we're not going to do this as a practice today. We may try it another day. But there's a form of loving kindness that my dear brother John Cunningham, who's a Dharma teacher and a guiding teacher for Cleveland Insight, and he has given us this kind of loving kindness meditation that I think is a beautiful way to do loving kindness for this one. He says, first of all, we just come into the body. And we'll just kind of sense into this as I share it with you, but we won't spend the whole time working on it like we would if we were actually doing a guided meditation. So come into the body. Notice what sensations are present. Notice if these sensations are pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Pleasant, unpleasant. What thoughts are arising? Notice what thoughts are arising. Remember, and this is the key phrase for me, remember that at its essence, all there is love. Pleasant and unpleasant are just wrinkles in the love. At its essence, all there is love. Pleasant and unpleasant are just wrinkles in the love. So when unpleasant sensations or thoughts or emotions arise, speak to them. Speak to them and say, I see you. I feel you. I care. I see you. I feel you. I care. And then after we've done this practice a while, we can drop off the I. That's a way of removing self from the picture. Just saying, seeing, feeling, caring. Washing the self, the sensations, thoughts, emotions, with a deep regard, and watch it. Watch what happens. pure presence is here now. I see you. Okay. What happens? Pure presence is here right now. So in closing, our thoughts are as important to us as our speech and actions because they make up who we are. They cause our speech and our actions. It becomes imperative that we keep our thoughts pure. Here's a couple of passages from the Dhammapada, which is such a great one. We all are, all we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts. It is made up of our thoughts. If a man speaks or acts with a pure thought, happiness follows him like a shadow that never leaves him. All we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts. It is made up of our thoughts. If a man or woman speaks or acts with a pure thought, happiness follows him like a shadow that never leaves him. And that's in the very first chapter. The third chapter, the Buddha says, your worst enemy cannot harm you as much as your own thoughts unguarded. But once mastered, no one can help you as much, not even your father or mother. Your worst enemy cannot harm you as much as your own thoughts unguarded. But once mastered, no one can help you as much, not even your father or your mother. And so with that, I'm going to give you a closing song and a musical dedication of Mary. And again, this is not a song for entertainment's sake, but rather a contemplation to be absorbed into your heart. Absorbed into your heart, allow you to be aware with discernment, but without judgment. And be transformed. As I wade through the rubble of all that's left behind, when the darkness is subsiding and the truth has come to light, may I maintain a level of kindness in my mind that leaves no room for fear or judgment, only love for all mankind. May my heart be strong and gentle. May my words be kind and few. May my mind be still silence, may I see my connection to you, and may the light always shine right through. I remember praying for a clear path to pursue when the gates of hell were open from the demon's point of view. Now I hear wisdom saying, just like I always knew, the darkness has no power when the light comes shining through. May my heart be strong and gentle. May my words be kind and few. May my mind be still and silent. May I see my connection to you, and may the light always shine right through. Now I sit here in this rubble, just here and now and still, listening to the fears and troubles as the shifting times fulfill a long-awaited shining promise of the coming of the light that glow on the horizon, the dissolving of the night. May my heart be strong and gentle. May my words be kind and few. May my mind be still and silent. May I see my connection to you, and may the light always shine right through. May the love always shine right through. May the light always shine right through. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can guide in giving unity, may their minds awaken to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light break the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and